Hi, and welcome to the very first vlog for Glyph Gates. I'm Dylan. I'm probably going to explain this all in another video, so I won't get into it too much now, just basically talking about what I did today. I did a fair amount today, not as much as I would have liked to, but I started getting very stupid by the end. The main thing is that we want to get some of the UI kind of running, but also get the point system up and running. So at the moment we've got kind of this, we got the multiplier up in the top left corner, and that's fairly straightforward. When you kill enemies, then it goes up. And what it was before today was that it started out ×1, and you killed one guy, and went to ×2, killed another one, went to ×4, and another one went to ×8. And we changed that, or I changed that. So now when you kill one monster, it goes to ×1.2, and you have a fair amount of time before it kind of goes off of this. Basically, like, I can play this game pretty quickly. The recording is actually kind of messing up with my movements a little, so I'm having to go a bit slower. But as you can kind of see, it builds up a little bit, but every time, the higher that is, the quicker it'll go away. See, that was like a little quicker. So I kind of imagine that this is kind of like when you slowly put your foot on the gas. It's kind of the feeling that I want to get here. So when you're kind of starting off, it's like, oh, I lost my combo. Well, I still have some time to kind of plan this out. Wow, the recording's really messing up how easy it is to control this. But as things kick up a little, then you're having to move like faster, 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 and it kind of keeps telling you that. And this is the other thing that I did today, which was adding this little score bar. Well, I used it before, but I made it make more sense. So this score saving was introduced recently, and the way that we're doing the score bar is that it's very difficult to see because I got a stupid amount of points here. I'll just reset that and use some of my dev tools, kind of show you. But if I just force into this, so it just kind of shows you your current score over here, and then there's this bar, and on one mark is what the current high score is. That's actually off center a bit, but I can fix that later. And as you get points, like if I get, like, again, dev tools for 100 points, boop, it'll go up. And so this is, of course, in proportion. So when you get to 440, which is, that's not the right button. Could have pressed literally anywhere but that, and it would have advanced. Like I said, I do these at the end of the day, so programming brain. But if I just go up to, like, 440, 450, I suppose, then it'll zoom, yeah, right up there. So that's probably a bit confusing at the moment, and I'll show you what that means. So once you go past it, obviously we still want, you know, the bar to kind of change. So instead of, see, it kind of zooms past. Now, it's quite rare for you to just smash your high score in one level like that, which is why that animation looks super fast, but basically, this will then kind of take up the role that this one did, except of course it's going in this direction. So you can kind of see, like, wow, I've really smashed that. Like, look, I've got like 3 times that or something. It's kind of the feeling that I want to get. And I also added a death screen like just 30 minutes ago, and it doesn't look too crash hot, so there's nothing worth talking about there. But let's look at the code for this, shall we? So the multiplier code is in my really stupid file, normal controller. One thing you're going to see a lot in this series is I started this project a long time ago, like 2.5 years ago. And you learn programming things over that time. So there's just some quirks about this. Like, for example, I have over here all the different monsters from the level 0 monsters, level 1 monsters, 2, 3. But in reality, and because, like, you multiply like the points you get by the level of the monster. The golem is technically actually a level 1 monster, and everything in level 1 is level 2, stuff like that. But my normal controller is a 1144 line file, and I've been whittling that down. I've actually, something else surpassed it, but this was my longest, my biggest file for a while. Anyways, I had a point at one point. I'm not meaning to make all these puns. Alright, so we have this function here, which is called whenever a monster dies. And this, we're looking at the multiplier at this point. So most of this is important, is that whether or not it's killed, because that's everything in here is going to involve points. If we didn't actually kill it, then we don't really care about points, because the player didn't earn it. If we didn't kill it, it would be because, you know, we're using a dev tool to delete it or skip past. I don't think it's ever going to be something that's going to be just used in the vanilla game. You're pretty much always going to get points if a monster goes away. So, this, let me stress this enough. This is a bad idea to just keep these lines of codes around, because I've had this for like 50 or so commits, which is like maybe half a year or so. But I do have a point, which is that basically it used to be that when you get points, these coins would like fly up, but I'm not super happy with the animation at the moment, and I wasn't sure if it was lagging, so I turned it off, and I haven't turned it back on because lag hasn't been something I've wanted to take a look at. But this is where the magic happens for the multiplier. So we have a variable here called kill count. So whenever you kill a monster, then obviously kill count goes up, as we're in the monster death function. And we just basically look at, alright, what's our current kill count? Because that's what's going to determine what multiplier we're going to get. So for all these f-based multiplier variables, you can pretty much treat them as 0. There will be a way to kind of increase this through power-ups, but for now you don't need to worry about that. So here we can set, let's say this multiplier is 1.2. That means that if kill count's below 2, which pretty much just means 1, then we set it to this. And then once we get it to 3, is it 3? I thought it would be 2. Oh yeah. So these if statements were kind of written backwards, but you can kind of assume that, you know, once you reach your first kill, then you get this. Once you reach your second kill, then you get this. And then it starts to get spaced out a bit. So 4th kill is this. 6th kill is this. You can kind of just read this letter. 9th kill is this, etc. So the multiplier timer is how many seconds that this is up. And the multiplier is obviously the points multiplier that we're going to get. And this goes up to 5. It used to go up to 8, but in this case, it's basically making it so multiplier is more of something out of mastery. So even if you're not very good at the game, you know, I'd probably say that I haven't play tested this new multiplier system, but I'd say somebody doing pretty poorly could probably even manage holding around to 2 for a lot of the time. It's mostly to see how far you can go, because like even I can't really get to a 5. 5 is really hard and it requires some luck, because to have 2.5 seconds to make your matches, it sounds easy, but when you say 2.5 seconds, but in reality it can get quite down to the wire. I changed from basically counting the frames to counting the seconds, and as a designer I can say that counting the seconds is way better. I mean, there's like, you'd never want to reward your player for lagging, I find, in a game like this. Maybe it doesn't matter, I don't know, but having the timer there is really useful to kind of just say, alright, the player has this many seconds to do it. So when it gets up to here, it's quite hard. And it basically, anytime you're at 25 kills or over, then you're at the max multiplier, and it won't get any worse than that. You know, it's going to be pretty hard to maintain that. So for the most part, this is kind of something where to see how far you can go. And if you wanted to take a look at like where this kind of counts down, I believe I'll do this. Yeah. So this is in the. That's gonna be difficult to show. Whew. Yeah. Again, this is more of that coin code. Oh god, it takes up so much space. It's probably one of the reasons it's such a big file. So I have this function called onEnterFrame. I'm using ActionScript, so this isn't like Unity where it just kind of runs automatically. You have to add like an event listener. And I've got my own system for that, which I might show you someday. But all you need to know is this runs every frame. This isn't what we're looking for, and this is like our main game loop. Yeah, this is where it would be, I guess. Oh god, it's such a mess. One of the challenges of this series was definitely going to be like, I'm going to have to explain my crazy code to people. But basically, in here, we just want to take a look at get controllables. Basically, just taking a look at whether, it's playing. It's kind of synonymous with paused at this point. I don't know if it'll ever change. So we just know that our multiplier timer, if it's above 0, it'll be above 0 if it ever matters. Basically, you can think of it like that. So if this, that's weird. I don't think that should be that. I think this is one of the, like, back when I counted by frames, because I'd count, one frame down at a time. I should probably remove that. Hey, I'm not going to do it now, though, because this is already going longer than I expected. Jeez. But basically, it's saying that, we're mostly going to be dealing with this. Use delta time, similar to Unity. It's just like something I wrote. It's the time in milliseconds is the last frame, so we divide that by 1,000. And that way, when it gets to below 0, we run this code, which is pretty self-explanatory. So, if I lost anybody there, then it's not your fault. It's just my code. And the wave completes screen with all of the bars. I'm going to keep this short because this file is not. Oh, jeez. So, the one thing with I think this is actually kind of normal, but I have to set a lot of parameters for just like this. Looks like a lot of code that it took a long time to write, but in reality, it was like, okay, I'm going to make the label for the high score, and then it's all this, and then I'm like, okay, time to make the label for the normal score, and so I just literally like copy and then paste it down here. Then rename all these variables. So there's not much to see up here, really. The magic happens, again, my onEnterFrame function. We are mainly concerned with this little variable here, the value. Value is kind of a lazy name, but all this does, in a nutshell, is it takes a look. It's like a kind of a sine curve, or to be fair, it's a cosine curve. It's maths, so maths is very important in game development. So it's basically just saying I wanted something that would accelerate to the middle and then decelerate out of the middle. So I could plot that on a cosine curve, and basically just I'm looking at time, and that's just the it's just the time it takes. Why would it be time? Okay, I don't know if I'll explain this in another video, but I name all my variables. The first letter is depending on their type, so I would say this is an integer. So it would be weird that I would be counting this at all. If I just go up here, no, it is a number. So I'm gonna quickly change that. So yeah, in this case, I would ordinarily go like n time, but that's weird because ActionScript uses number instead of float. It's the same as a float. I call it a float. So all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna use the find and replace function on this. So replace. I like going through manually because sometimes it'll read part of another variable. Oh, that needed to change as well. That's okay. The compiler will tell me if I get anything wrong. So yeah, basically it's just I previous points is the amount of points we had last wave, and then the goal points is what we want to have after this one. So let's say, last at level 4, at the end of level 4 we had 800 points. The end of level 5 we have 1200 points. Then I previous points would be 800. I goal points would be 1200. And this would just basically, accelerate towards it. And this is run every frame. So F time, it's getting modified down here. It's the same deal with this bad boy, with the delta time, except in the opposite direction, so we're counting up. And dir bar fill is kind of the limit of my cosine. So I could explain the math here, but it would probably be very boring. It's basically just constraining the cosine to a length equal to dir bar fill. I'm actually kind of talking about stuff that I didn't do just today, so don't think that today was that productive. Don't worry. What was mostly done today is I had everything working up so that the score bar would go up to the high score, but nothing would happen past it. So I moved things into these functions here. If I go down here, I can show you. I kind of like moving things into functions. This was a bit superfluous. I don't like having one-line function files a lot of the time, but sometimes I find it easier to put code in a function with a very easy-to-read name rather than have like a line of code, like a commented line above it explaining it. And that way I can put my comments explaining what it does down here. I can also put it up here, which is something nice about Flash Develop. If I kind of put blah blah blah, then when I go into move high score, it'll actually, boop, see, there's that nonsense, which is very useful. It depends on how lazy I'm being. Again, there's another useful tip where if you do this and then go to refractor extract method, you could just name it that, and then boom, it puts it all there, and then calls that. So that's just what I did here. Anyways, so this will be difficult to explain. Like I'm really going over time. The main I'll graze over what happened. So pretty much after we go over the high score, then we need to recalculate where we're gonna be. So bar max width is the length of the entire bar, and then the score max width is what percentage of the score that could possibly take, because we're always going to have a blank space to the right. I kind of just like that because it reminds players there's a place that you're going within the score rather than just kind of being at the limit and then seeing the high score drain down. There might be some other stuff where that kind of like looks like it's going forward with some particle effects, but for now that's what this is. And so this just basically tries to get, okay, well, this little marker for the high score, we're placing that in the ratio. So we know if we're calling this function, we know that current score is going to be higher than high score. So this is a good way to just basically get, what percentage of high score is current score. So like if this was 10 and this was 5, this would return 0.5. So we know that we would basically go half of the length that it could possibly be. And that's, I think, where I'm going to leave that. This is, looking at my audio, almost 20 goddamn minutes, so man, I hope I don't have to split this into 2 parts or anything. I know back when I was doing YouTube, it was some nonsense about only 10-minute videos or something, but I hope you guys enjoyed. Tell me if you have any questions about what you saw in the code, and I might try to address them in future episodes. I'm going to be really busy this week, so I'm just kind of focused on recording a bunch of things and then putting them out pretty much all at once. So if you leave a comment here and then I don't see it in the next video or something, then basically just know that I'm not ignoring you, I'm just sort of busy. Anyways, we're about to head up to 20 minutes, so thanks for watching. I hope you all have a lovely day, and, keep making games. Keep making games. Keep making games.